There's a certain kind of person that kings, bosses, and even algorithms hate. Not the loud rebel, not the genius, not the billionaire. It's the person who, when you threaten them, when you dangle rewards in front of them, when you try to scare them or seduce them or shame them, just looks at you and calmly does not care enough to obey. The man who needs nothing, not because he literally has nothing, not because he's numb or dead inside, but because in all the important ways he has made himself hard to buy, hard to scare, hard to manipulate. And the scary thing is, if you become that kind of person, a lot of the power other people seem to have over you suddenly looks very fake. So I want you to check something quietly just in your own head. Who can control you right now? If they stopped giving you money, affection, attention, approval, opportunities, if they stopped replying, if they fired you, if they mocked you in front of others, if they removed the one thing you think you can't live without, who would you instantly start chasing, apologizing to, bending for? That's where you're still controllable. And Machiavelli, this supposedly cold, ruthless political thinker from 500 years ago, basically built his entire philosophy around that one fact. Control the needs, control the person. He wasn't writing self-help. He was writing instructions for princes on how to keep people dependent. But if you read him in reverse, if you look at his logic from the other side, you get something incredibly powerful, a roadmap for becoming the kind of person that rulers, corporations, manipulative partners, and even social media struggles to control. The man who needs nothing. Now, let's be honest up front. You and I both know that needing nothing in the literal sense is impossible. You need food, shelter, human connection. You have dreams, desires, attachments. So when I use that phrase, I don't mean some monk in a cave who has transcended all desire. I mean this: no single person, no single system, no single source of pleasure or validation has their hand around your throat. You might prefer them, you might enjoy them, but you don't need them so badly that you'll betray yourself to keep them. We're talking about strategic independence. And Machiavelli, without meaning to, shows us exactly how to build it. Think about how he says a ruler should stay in power. Keep people afraid of losing what they have. Keep them hoping for what only you can give. Keep them divided so they don't realize their strength. Reward loyalty. Punish disobedience. Make it risky to walk away. Nothing in there is mystical. It's all about need. If your wealth comes from one patron, he owns you. If your social status comes from one circle, they own you. If your identity comes from one role, your job, your relationship, your image, that role owns you. And Machiavelli's prince loves that. It makes you predictable. So, flip the logic. If you want to be hard to control, you can't only focus on being strong or staying motivated. You have to quietly remove the levers that others can pull. Before we get tactical, I want you to picture something. Imagine a man whose life is very ordinary on the surface. He's not famous. He doesn't dress in designer clothes. He's not constantly talking about grind set or posting motivational quotes, but his debts are low. His expenses are simple. He has savings. He can live cheaply if he has to. He likes people, but he's not terrified of being alone. He doesn't depend on one person's approval to feel like he matters. He knows what he believes and what his boundaries are. You threaten his job, he doesn't enjoy it, but he'll walk. You try to shame him online, he shrugs. The people who matter already know him. You offer him money to do something he thinks is wrong. It's almost funny, he's not for sale. That is closer to Machiavelli's nightmare than you might think. Because if enough people become like that, the old tricks, fear, bribery, shame, flattery, they stop working. So let's break this down into something you can actually use in your own life without pretending to be some cold robot or pretending you don't care about anything. I'm going to frame it in 3 levels of needing nothing. Material, social, psychological. They build on each other. And if you stay with me until the end, I want you to spot exactly which level is your weak point right now, and what Machiavelli would exploit in you if you were a citizen in his city. Because if he could exploit it, so can modern power. Let's start with the obvious one, material. Machiavelli understood that if your survival depends on someone, your freedom is fragile. He literally says that men will always remember the loss of their property. Why? Because whoever controls your property controls your fear. Translate that to your life. If missing one paycheck would destroy you, how free are you really at work? If your lifestyle is so inflated that you need every cent, how honest can you be with your boss, your clients, your audience? If you're drowning in debt, what happens when someone offers you money to do something you don't actually believe in? This isn't about shaming you if you're broke or struggling. There are people working brutally hard and still barely surviving. That's real. This is about seeing clearly how power works, so you don't mistake pressure for destiny. Because here's the thing, people will tell you money can't buy happiness, but they don't talk enough about this other part. A little bit of money buys a lot of freedom if your needs are small. Not freedom to never work again, not freedom to live on a yacht. Freedom to say no. No, I won't do that shady thing to keep this client. No, I won't stay in this job where I'm disrespected. No, I won't act against my conscience just because I'm scared of this month's bills. Machiavelli would say, if you want to control people, keep them just comfortable enough to not revolt, but just pressured enough that they can't risk losing their position. So if you want to be the man who needs nothing, you quietly flip that script. You lower how much you truly need. You stop tying your self-worth to constant upgrades. You kill off the part of you that confuses I want this lifestyle with I'll die without this lifestyle. Maybe that means cutting one unnecessary recurring expense. Saying no to one status purchase, is just about impressing people. Actually, learning to enjoy cheaper habits. Reading, walking, at-home workouts, cooking basic meals. Nothing glamorous, but over time, it changes your posture. You start asking a different question. Does this give me freedom or take it away? Now let's move to the second level. Social Machiavelli knew people are not just controlled by money or survival, they're controlled by belonging, reputation, and honor. In his world, the prince watches carefully. Who wants promotion? Who wants titles? Who fears exile? Who is desperate to be close to power so they can feel important? You might not care about titles in a royal court, but you probably care about something. Followers, likes, praise, being seen as smart, successful, good, non-proatic, whatever label your circle worships. Ask yourself bluntly, whose opinion can ruin your day? If a stranger calls you an idiot, you shrug. But if that one person you secretly want to impress ignores you or disagrees with you or mocks you, what happens inside you? Because that's where control slips in through your hunger to be seen a certain way. You can be materially independent and still be socially enslaved. Think about the person who won't post what they really think because they're afraid of losing friends, or the friend who stays in a dead relationship because they can't stand the idea of being single at their age, or the guy who's constantly on brand because he's more afraid of being ordinary than of being fake. That's also need, and you can feel it in your body when it's happening. That tightness in your chest, that urge to explain yourself, that compulsion to check who viewed your story, who reacted, who approved. The man who needs nothing isn't some stone wall who doesn't care about anyone. He cares, but his sense of self isn't rented from other people's reactions. He can be misunderstood without immediately panicking. He can be disliked without instantly changing himself to fit. He can apologize when he's wrong, but he doesn't apologize for existing. That's social freedom. So, how do you move towards that realistically? Start small. Say one honest thing in a conversation where you'd normally just nod along. Post one piece of content that feels true to you, even if you think some people won't like it. Let one message sit unseen without spiraling about what the other person thinks. And when your brain starts screaming, they're going to leave, they're going to hate you, you'll be alone. Notice it. You're not weak or strange for feeling that. You're just human. Machiavelli was betting on that reflex in you. But you don't have to obey it. You can sit with the discomfort and realize I'm still here. The world didn't end. Maybe I can handle more aloneness than I thought. Now the third level, and this is the one that's hardest to fake. Psychological independence. You can have low expenses and a decent savings cushion. You can have a healthy social life and some emotional resilience, and still be totally controlled by your own unresolved chaos. Machiavelli talks about fortune, that unpredictable force that messes with human plans. He says, a good prince can't control fortune, but he can prepare himself, build up his verrou, his inner strength and adaptability. For you, fortune might be sudden illness, betrayal, lost opportunities, breakups, global crisis, random bad luck. If every time something unexpected hits, you collapse, you numb out, you rage at the world, or you instantly look for someone to save you, then even if no one is consciously trying to control you, you're still not free. Because your life is being driven by your reactions. Psychological independence doesn't mean you never get hurt, never get scared, never feel lost. It means you trust yourself to survive those feelings without selling yourself out. You don't need the world to always be fair for you to behave according to your values. You don't need constant reassurance to keep moving forward. You don't need your partner, your friends, or the universe to make you whole before you decide what kind of man you're going to be. And yes, this is the hardest part. It means taking responsibility for your inner life instead of outsourcing it. It might look like actually sitting alone with your thoughts instead of drowning them in endless scrolling, writing honestly about what you're ashamed of, what you're afraid of, what you want, instead of performing an edited version of yourself. Admitting that some of the chains on you aren't just out there in society. They're in your habits, your fears, your beliefs about what you deserve. Machiavelli would tell his prince, know your people, know their weaknesses, know what they hope and fear. He was right, but you can turn that same spotlight on yourself. What do you hope for so desperately that you'd break your own rules to get it? What do you fear so much that you'd rather stay small and controlled than risk facing it? Be brutally honest with yourself here. No one else needs to see this. For some people, it's the fear of being irrelevant. For others, it's the fear of being poor again. For some, it's the fear of being abandoned like they were as a kid. For others, it's the fear of being ordinary in a world obsessed with being special. Whatever it is, that's the chain that makes you controllable. And you don't break that chain by pretending you don't care. You break it by caring differently, by saying, yes, this scares me, but it doesn't get to decide my behavior. Yes, I want this, but I won't betray myself to keep it. Yes, I feel lonely, but I won't run back to people who diminish me just to fill the silence. That's the man who needs nothing in the deepest sense. He still has needs and desires, but they sit in his hands, not wrapped around his neck. Let me give you a simple, not glamorous example. Imagine two people. The first guy has a high-status job that he secretly hates. He spends most of his income on keeping up appearances, the right car, the right gadgets, the right vacations. He posts just enough of it to maintain his image. He's terrified of being seen as falling off. His boss knows this. So every time there's pressure, the boss hints, a guy in your position wouldn't want to look like he's not a team player. And this man caves. He works longer hours, stays quiet about unethical decisions, sacrifices health, relationships, integrity. Why? Because underneath his real need isn't money. It's status. It's the story he tells himself. I'm successful, I'm above average, people envy me. Take that away and he feels like nothing. The second guy earns a modest income. He enjoys his work or at least doesn't hate it. His identity doesn't come mainly from his job. It comes from his character, his craft, his relationships, maybe his faith or philosophy. He lives below his means. He has some savings. He buys nice things sometimes, but not to impress anyone. He'd be embarrassed if people thought his stuff mattered more than his word. His boss tries the same line. You wouldn't want to look like you're not a team player, and this guy can say, I am a team player, I just won't do that. If they fire him, it'll hurt. But he's built a life that can survive it, and more importantly, he can survive his own thoughts about himself. If his external status drops, which man is truly more powerful? From the outside, it might still look like the first one, but from Machiavelli's perspective, the one who's easier to rule. It's clearly the first guy who is a dream to control. The second one is a problem. You might not be either of these extremes right now. You're probably somewhere in between. That's fine. The point isn't to feel guilty. The point is to see clearly where you're trading freedom for comfort, for image, for approval. Now, none of this means you should reject all comfort, all pleasure, all relationships, all ambition. Machiavelli isn't telling you to become a hermit. I'm not telling you to burn your life down in the name of freedom. The art is in balancing. The man who needs nothing is not the man who has nothing. He's the man who could lose a lot and still remember who he is. He could leave a job if he must. He could walk away from a relationship that keeps shrinking him. He could be attacked online and still sleep at night. He could fail publicly and not crumble into dust, because his anchor is internal, not rented. So, if you're still with me, here's what I'd invite you to do after this. Not theoretically, but actually. Pick one lever of control in your life and loosen it just a little. If it's material, track where your money actually goes for 1 week, without judgment, just data. Cut one recurring thing that doesn't truly improve your life. Put that money aside as your I can say no fund. If it's social, notice one relationship where you walk on eggshells because you're afraid of losing them. Ask yourself, if I didn't need their approval so much, what would I say? How would I act? Then express one small honest thing, even if your voice shakes, if it's psychological. Catch one moment where you're about to numb your feelings with distraction. Instead of instantly reaching for your phone or another escape, sit there for 2 minutes and actually feel whatever is coming up. Tell yourself, I can handle this feeling without obeying it. These are tiny moves, but tiny moves repeated change who you are over time. You won't wake up tomorrow, some perfectly self-sufficient stoic hero. That's not how this works. But you might wake up with a slightly different posture towards the world. Less begging, less bargaining, more choosing. And that's what makes you dangerous in the best way. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. A lot of systems around you assume you will always be needy. Needy for stimulation, needy for things you don't really need, needy for endless validation, needy for someone else to tell you who you are. It's profitable to keep you that way. It's politically convenient to keep you that way. It's emotionally convenient for manipulative people to keep you that way. Machiavelli would nod. It's the same game, just with different costumes, so when you start wanting less of the superficial things and wanting more of the substantial things, self-respect, real connection, meaningful work, inner stability, you're not just healing or improving. You're quietly stepping out of a script that was written for you long before you were born. The man who needs nothing cannot be controlled. Not because he's invincible, not because he's above pain, but because he has decided again and again that nothing outside of him is worth the price of betraying himself. So, if there's one question I want to leave echoing in your mind after this, it's this. What are you still renting your soul for? A number in your bank account, a blue check mark, a title on a business card, a person who wouldn't choose you if you stopped performing, the illusion of safety, and if you stopped renting it, if you let one of those things go, even just a little, what kind of person might you become instead? You don't have to fix your whole life tonight. You don't have to become some cold Machiavellian mastermind. Just become slightly less controllable than you were yesterday. Need a little less from the things that own you. Stand a little straighter when someone tries to buy you. Say no one more time than you used to. Bit by bit, lever by lever, you become that quiet, unsettling presence in the room. The one who can listen to threats and promises and still choose. The one whose value isn't up for auction. The one who, even in a world that constantly tries to pull your strings, holds the scissors in his own hands. That's the man Machiavelli would rather rule over than deal with, and that's exactly why you should become